On January the 9th, 2023. I'm Tom Kelly, and this is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Hey, Dr. Chris, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Happy New Year to you and everybody listening.
Happy New Year to you. Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, I was just got back this weekend from a family cruise. And that means we had the privilege of going to the Caribbean and stopping at places like the Dominican Republic and St. Thomas and St. Martin, and all good.
Good. And let's see. So those are which of those are the American version? I get confused.
Yeah, that's the American, where they drive on the wrong side of the road.
Okay. Got it.
And so we didn't do any driving, thankfully. But, I saw this incredible house overlooking a mountain, and I asked the taxi driver, what does that baby go for? Like $5 million? He said, oh no, probably could get it for 500,000. I said, that one overlooking no way. And he said, yeah, that's all they cost. So, if some Monday night I don't show up anymore,
yeah,
and I'm no longer in Florida, you'll know where I went.
That's right. Well, we'll know when we see you.
Really great location.
And you could be the monk on the mountain.
I'm not becoming a monk regardless,
okay.
But
right.
I would live overlooking the sea on a mountain like that. That was awesome.
That would be awesome.
Beautiful.
And which island was that on?
I think that was St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. Okay. We'll have to check into that and see what properties available out there. So, well,
are you moving in with me? Is that what's happening?
Well, I could be a neighbor. I love the mountains and the sea.
We can say anything we want, but until we talk to our wives, this is just boys' conversation.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you. I'll just tell my wife the way it's going to be.
Yeah, that's always worth a laugh.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because she's driving home right now, and she.
You can say whatever you want. She's not home.
Yeah, I got a minute before she walks in the house. So.
How about your New Year?
We had a great time and a lot of downtime, family time. Took the kids to see a movie this past weekend that was wonderful, and especially when my grandson said, "I get to sit next to Pappy." And I was like,
oh, nice.
Okay, you win. So that was fun. So we have.
Yeah, my highlight was having a chance to snorkel with my 11-year-old son. He had never done that before, and he was just delighted to see all the fish by the rocks. And then at one point, I was holding his hand, and I stopped swimming. And I pointed, and I kept pointing, and finally it occurred to him I was pointing to a sea turtle. It was rather big, and he'd never seen one up close like that, and it just eventually got up and started to swim away, and he was just so delighted. It was so excited for him. So that's a daddy's moment.
Oh, absolutely. Love those moments. Love those moments. So we've been talking about something called the social black belt, but we took a couple of weeks off. We're ready to kick off the new year, and this has been a both entertaining and educational, and just really a lot of fun as we've been going through talking about the social black belt for the last couple of months. So I'll tell you what, let's back up for just a moment. We're going to be doing 4 segments tonight, so let's start off with maybe a recap as to where we are, since it's been a little while now. What I've done the last couple of weeks, Dr. Chris, was played the couple of shows before this one so that we're kind of catching back up for those who maybe have missed some stuff. So help us catch up a little bit on what is the social black belt and where are we going with this?
Yeah, that's fantastic. The social black belt is a concept that is predicated upon 10 truths that years ago I thought the whole world needed to know these truths, because I thought that my profession, psychology, was guilty of not teaching enough basic helpful truths to the population at large, to the average, the common man. And I saw fit to write a book about these 10 things. And my original title was 10 Things Someone Should Have Taught You by Now. But the publishing company converted that title to Your Mind, an Owner's Manual for a Better Life. And the publishing company featured these 10 truths that I thought everyone should know, because I remember being in high school and there were many things I was taught that didn't seem to matter much as I take a look back on life. I don't know if I needed all of those quadratic equations and some of the algebra and geometry, but it would have been nice to learn how to manage a checkbook, read a map, and some other kinds of things that would have been really nice and practical. So that was the mindset in putting this book together, that these are important things that everybody should know. And so the concept of the social black belt is that if you had a black belt in any martial art, you would have the highest level of training. And if there was such a thing as a social black belt, then you could have the highest level of training when it comes to social skills and life skills. I mean, you don't look for trouble, but you can handle whatever life has in store for you. So it's a program that teaches life skills. And there are 10 truths, and for the past X number of months, we have knocked out 7 of them. And there's 3 in a row that have to do with relationships. And we are on the precipice of truth number 8. And truth number 8, Tom, is all about a concept called ego boundaries. And the truth is, ego boundaries protect us from rejection, insult, and intimidation. That's the 8th truth. But you know, the first very fair question is, what is an ego boundary? So the word ego means self. And a boundary, we all know, a boundary is a line in the sand. A boundary says this is where your neighbor's property starts and yours ends, and vice versa. This line is a boundary between the two properties. And so with an ego boundary, I need to understand that all of my behavior, everything I think, say, feel, and do is about me. And everything you think, say, feel, and do is about you, even if it's directed at me. Whatever you say and however you treat me is more a statement about you than it is about me, because I am just a stimulus to you. I am nothing more than a stimulus that you project your way of thinking onto me. And you treat me according to who you are and how much value you place on the stimulus of me. And teaching that to humans at any age is important, but teaching it to children is vital. There was a bestseller book not too long ago called The 4 Agreements, written by a guy named Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of those 4 agreements that he was asking everyone to buy into is that don't take anybody's behavior personally. Don't personalize anything that isn't yours. And that's exactly where we begin with this 8th truth, that all of your behavior everything you say, whatever you do, even if it's directed at me, is really about you. Tell me where we are in terms of a break, and I'll continue either on this side or the other side of the break.
Well, I tell you what, I think this is a good part because I know where you're going next. I think this is a good time to take the break, and that way we can keep going rather than interrupt in just when things are getting good. I do want to point out of the book the Ray Charles quote that you use in the book.
You're right. You did know where I was going. That was exactly the next thing I was going to say.
So I want us to talk about that and kind of get into all that. So we'll go there next. And you're listening to TNC Radio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. We'll be right back. Stay right there.
Budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Budgeting can be rather overwhelming at first. It requires a plan and self-discipline, but there's no need to be scared. Once you get the hang of budgeting, it'll become easy and will no longer feel like you're restrained from your finances. It's a good feeling to know exactly how much you're spending and where your money's going. Start budgeting today, and you'll begin to save money and see a difference in your finances. Here are some great budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Know your why. The first step to creating a budget is understanding your why. What is your reasoning for creating a budget? What do you want to accomplish? Are you trying to pay off debt? Are you trying to save for a big purchase? Or are you just wanting to be more conscious of your spending? Knowing your why before creating a budget will help motivate you and keep you on track. Set goals. Setting goals will help you achieve your why. To pay off debt or to save a specific amount, you need to know how much you need to be saving and budgeting each month. It's much easier to save and budget when you have a specific goal. Saving just to save does not always keep you motivated. Know your income. Since drivers typically get paid by the mail, drivers have a fluctuating income. Unless you have a dedicated route, your paychecks will vary. Drivers with a set income have a much easier time creating their budget because they know the exact amount they're bringing in every month. If you have a fluctuating income, it's best to know your baseline, meaning you need to know the bare minimum expenses that you need to cover every month. Analyze your spending. Next, you'll need to analyze your spending habits. You can do that by looking at your bank account and examining where you're spending most of your money. Are you spending most of your money at truck stops? Fast food restaurants? Another great way to evaluate your spending is to make a list in a notebook or your cell phone for every purchase you make throughout the month. Keeping track of your spending will not only give you an idea of how much you're spending each month, it will also make you more mindful of your spending. Needs versus wants. When budgeting, it's important to know the difference between needs versus wants. Things you need as a truck driver: food, place to sleep, clothing, toiletries. Things you may want: entertainment, TV, video games, computers, Netflix or Hulu subscription, accessories for your rig. As a budgeter, you need to pay attention to your needs first and save for the things you want. Set a limit. Setting a spending limit is the best way to keep yourself from overspending. Write down all your necessary living expenses and keep in mind how much you want to save each month. Then determine how much you want to spend. A good method to help you set a limit is the envelope system. Budgeting takes time and self-discipline. It's not easy at first, but over time, it will become easier and easier. Kathy Tuccaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com.
Welcome back in TNCRadio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. So, Dr. Chris, we were just getting into talking about Chapter 8 and ego boundaries and all that good stuff. And I read this quote that you put in the book from Ray Charles. I found it fascinating.
I did too, which is why I included it in the beginning of the chapter. Of course, what concerns me is that after knowing each other for about a year or so, you and I are already finishing each other's sentences like an old married couple. So it's a little bit scary.
It is, yeah. That's what I was going to say, a little bit scary, yeah.
But anyway, Ray Charles said, and I quoted him because I love this quote, he said, "Not one drop of my self-esteem depends on your approval." Now, if we look at the word esteem, esteem is value, and self-esteem is the value I place on myself. You hear that word thrown around sometimes, like this is his highly esteemed automobile collection or her highly esteemed art collection. People place a great deal of value on some things, but self-esteem is the worth or value, very subjectively, of course, how valuable am I? And he says, not 1 ounce of this, of my regard for myself, is predicated upon your approval of me. You could think I am worthless. You could think I'm a loser. You could think something terrible racially. Ray Charles is a black man. You could think whatever you want to think, and I will continue to value myself just the same as I did before I heard what you said. And why do I love that quote? Probably the same reason you do, is that wouldn't it be nice if we could teach that to our children, that you are worthwhile regardless of how any one of your classmates treats you, regards you, mocks you, belittles you, criticizes what you're wearing, makes fun of your race, your ethnicity, your heritage. Imagine if we could teach children that your worth is so settled in the sense of you have value because of who you are, and it doesn't matter if you have the approval of other people. And that's what's really vital about this eighth truth, this ego boundary. I want people to, as much as possible, be good in their own skin and understand that how others treat them is about the other person. We have this concept in psychology, Tom, and I know you were a psych major in college, so I'm not going to be speaking about something you don't already understand. But the concept is projective testing. And there's a famous test that many people know about called the Rorschach. And the Rorschach is sadly a bunch of cardboard with ink splattered on them. And we ask people in all seriousness, what do you see in this card? And the only correct answer is, I see ink splattered on cardboard. That's the only, in my opinion, the only correct answer. But we ask people, no, seriously, what can you see in that ink? And whatever a person sees is a statement about that person. It's not a statement about the card. We've already established that the card is cardboard with ink splattered on it. And so I remember one of the cards when I had to take the test in my training, and they said, "What do you see?" And I was like, "I see a pig on roller skates, wearing a hat, delivering a pizza."
While playing tennis.
I don't remember what that says about me, and I don't know what it says about the pig delivering pepperoni pizza, which is my favorite. But here's the point. What I saw in that was about me. And here's the point beyond that. How anybody treats me is a statement about them, because they're projecting the way they look at the world. They're projecting how they see me onto me. And I do the same with them. What if they're a woman? What if they're a tall woman? What if they're a black man, an Asian man? What if they're somebody wearing glasses? What if there's somebody 6'5" and 285 pounds of muscle? Whatever they are, I project my thoughts onto who that person is. And I treat them according to who I am and how I think about them. And unfortunately, if I treat people poorly, they may internalize my bad treatment, even though it's 100% about me. It's my opinion. It's my perception. It's my view of another person. One of the things that really fascinated me years ago when I was writing this book, I read this article in the Parade magazine that was in every Sunday paper every week. I don't know if they still have that, but it doesn't matter. They would have these questions. People would write in questions. And somebody wrote in about, I don't get it, some of the most beautiful women in the world have been cheated on, and many of them more than once. And they named people like Sienna Miller and Christy Brinkley and just gorgeous, gorgeous women. And it's like, if they can be cheated on, where do the rest of us stand? Like, how does that happen? And the person responding, I thought, did a pretty good job by saying it's not about the value or the worth or the lack thereof or the beauty or the lack of beauty. It's about the person who's doing the cheating. It's not the one being cheated on. It's about the cheater. And my theory on why the most beautiful women in the world are consistently cheated on is because very often they will attract or be attracted to men who are confident enough to try to score a woman of that caliber, who is also looking for a conquest and wondering what else and who else he can score once that becomes old news, if you know what I mean. And so some of the most beautiful women are objectified as, this is a gorgeous woman. Boy, would I like to be with her. And once I am, then there's a part of me that says, boy, that's great, but I wonder what it would be like, I wonder if I can get that other woman, even though I've already been with, a perfect 10 on a 1 to 10 scale, so to speak. And what happens consistently is that the woman is devastated. Like, what is wrong with me? Maybe if I lost 10 pounds, no, don't lose 10 pounds. Maybe if I grew my hair out no, it's really, no, you're fine. I've had this in my office more than once over the years. No, you're wonderful. You're beautiful. You're intelligent. You're worth loving. You're lovable. The statement is about the person. It's their behavior.
Well, yeah, and I think Jay Leno put it best to Hugh Grant, right?
I remember that story, but I don't know what Leno said.
Hugh Grant showed up on Jay Leno after he'd been caught with a rather unattractive prostitute. And Leno, the first question, Hugh Grant sits down and Leno looks at him and says, What the hell were you thinking?
Which is the only fair question to ask at that point. We all wanted to.
Yeah.
He was with Elizabeth Hurley at the time, as I recall. That was his girlfriend, and
Yeah.
But what was clear is that it wasn't about Miss Hurley.
Exactly. Jay did not start off with, what was wrong with Elizabeth?
Yeah.
He put the blame where it belonged. What the hell were you thinking?
That's good. I wish I'd seen that, but I feel like I have now.
You probably did somewhere along the way. It was a classic moment. I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a break, and we're at the bottom of the hour here. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to TNC Radio.live, Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Don't touch that dial. Do they even still have dials? I don't know. Yeah.
Don't know.
We'll be right back.
I thought you meant the soap.
Yeah, that too. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. In part one, we were talking about stress, and I shared a story about how some people actually escape stress by jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. For most of us, that would be an experience that would create stress. So, what in the world is stress? Stress is a specific reaction in the body to a non-specific stimulus, meaning anything can create stress for someone if they perceive it as a threat. Now, what happens when we're stressed is that the body is preparing us to do one of two things, either to fight or to flight. And most of us understand that best when we think of an example like seeing flashing lights in our rearview mirror. We automatically know how it feels when that police officer is bearing down on us and we need to pull over. Our hearts start racing and our chest gets constricted and tight, and our breathing becomes rapid and shallow, and the blood's pumping to the major muscle groups, chest, back, arms, shoulders, again, preparing us to take some action. And if you follow that scenario all the way through, whether or not the police officer pulls us over or is aiming for the next guy, usually minutes later, the stress response stops. We return to normal, to equilibrium. And, it was just there for a burst, that whole fight or flight. That's called an alarm reaction. There was a professor at the University of Montreal, a guy named Hans Selye, who studied what he called the GAS syndrome. GAS, not the kind that my kids complain about, but GAS stands for the General Adaptation Syndrome. And that's how the body prepares and deals with stress. So the very first stage of stress is this alarm reaction where we go into fight or flight. I'll take you through the next two stages and then what we could do about stress in the upcoming videos.
Our grocery stores are stocked. Our packages arrive in just a few short days. No matter the day or season, we can thank America's truck drivers for the efficient delivery of over 10 billion tons of goods a year that we rely on. On this National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, we offer a big thank you to professional truck drivers for hauling the everyday goods that meet our daily needs. We thank a trucker. Brought to you by Trucking Moves America Forward at truckingmovesamerica.com. Follow us on social media at Trucking FWD.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. All right, Dr. Chris, back again. Turn it back over to you.
So I worked with a woman years back, and I met her, Tom, because she had a 30 some odd year marriage to a man that she described as being faithful and a good man and a decent man, but she wasn't enamored with him. They just had a, kind of a friendship and not a very exciting marriage. And then a man came into her work setting and just flattered her and came on to her. And she had never had anyone just flatter her and treat her as if she were the most beautiful, appealing, sexy, attractive woman. And he stayed with that and he played that until finally this woman who had been monogamously committed to her husband for 3 decades, she took him up on going on a date, and it didn't take long before they were physical, and she couldn't do this, and she told her poor husband that she was leaving him, and he was, crushed and shocked. And so she went and she moved in with this guy in a matter of weeks. And as soon as she did, everything changed, and he started to treat her horribly, and he ignored her. And instead of treating her as the woman he was writing poetry for 2 weeks earlier, he was treating her like she was disgusting and an imposition to him, and he was frustrated having her around, and she was just completely devastated. And the line she continued to use in therapy is, "What did I do wrong?" or "What's wrong with me?" And as we progressed, she told me one other thing that she found out. The relationship was now over. She said, "I found out that he had done that to other women in the past." And yet she continued to say, "But what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Why couldn't I keep him?" And it's like, do you not understand that this was never about you? You were a conquest for him. And once he achieved the conquest, he was done. Scoring you, a married woman, of all those years, was a big challenge for him. And once he succeeded, you were likened unto a deer, an elk, a salmon on his wall, the big head of a moose. He had conquered, and he was ready to move on to the next challenge. And this woman didn't understand. What was her part? Her part was that she could be flattered so much by someone's attention that it made her think, maybe I had settled for something less than true love. Maybe there's something better out there for me. Maybe there's more happiness with a man who's obviously more enamored with me than my husband ever was. And so it was a really sad story, but it left such a strong impression in my mind that how somebody treats me is really about them. And it happens every day to all of us in different ways. What if you were scammed? I mean, I don't know anyone who hasn't had or doesn't know someone who was scammed. I mean, my buddy's parents lost like $7,000. I have people who in my family who lost hundreds of dollars to scammers. I almost was scammed myself. I was so embarrassed by almost falling for it. And I had a clerk at a dollar store going, "No, this is a scam, sir. Don't buy this. Don't buy this gift card. It's a scam." I'm like, "What? No, the guy called." Really? I was humiliated. I was relieved and humiliated. But my point is, what does it say about you if you were scammed? And what it really says about you is that you trust people sometimes when they tell you what they're doing. The easiest person to scam, we have them in Florida. We have all these salt of the earth, Midwestern type people in their 70s and 80s. Their word is good. And if they tell you something, it's because they believe it. And if you tell them something, they tend to believe too, because why would you tell them otherwise? You know, they do handshake deals. And they're very easy to scam, some of these people, because they're honest and they're trustworthy. And if you lead them down a path, they'll believe you. And the next thing you know, they're telling you that your grandson has been arrested and they can help you, but they need you to give, you know, it's awful. But what should the person who scammed take personally? That I chose to trust another person because, you know, if I ever told someone that, it would be because it was true. So I tend to believe other people. So what do you do if you were molested as a child or insulted by your boss or betrayed by a close friend? Or, you know, the things that happen to us, you know, they happen. Horrible things like that happen to all of us. And what should we take personally when somebody treats us like that? And the first thing I would say is the behavior of the other person is always about them. It's not about me. My behavior is about me. I trusted that person. Sometimes that's what I'm guilty of. Sometimes that's all I bring to the table is a naive trust that you told me this, and so I believed you. And that's my part. The evil part or the bad behavior part, that doesn't belong to me. That belongs to somebody else. How somebody treats you is about them, not about you. So we were talking a little bit before about beautiful women. And one of the things that I'll sometimes do when I'm teaching this truth to a crowd is I'll say, there's a very lovely lady over there. If you don't mind, I'd like to use you as an example. And when you're a lovely lady, people treat you differently according to the research, but they always treat you according to who they are. So for instance, there are going to be some guys who know that you're a beautiful lady, but they'll never look at you and they'll never talk to you because they don't feel worthy of your time and attention. So they'll talk to people around you, but they won't talk to you because they are not good enough in their own minds. And then there's other people who will treat you, and I'm going to use an offensive word that I've heard people being called before. They'll treat you like you're a bimbo, like you're a brainless person. And if you ask some women who treat other beautiful women like that, they'll say things like, if she looks like that, there's no way she's got a brain in her head. I remember with a former partner of mine who took a job where there were a bunch of ladies, and she was a young lady, a receptionist, and a man came off the street, walked in, saw her, and sent a dozen roses. And the other women, out of jealousy, clipped off the heads of all these roses. And finally, after they were so mean to her, one of the ladies came up to her and said, you know, we would treat you a lot better, bimbo, if you would gain 40 pounds. And I was astonished that the woman would talk like that we're going to treat you poorly because you're more attractive and you get attention from men and we don't like it. And she, again, you know, this was my partner at the time, and she was devastated. What did I do? You showed up beautiful. That's what you did. And back to that projective test, you know, people treat people according to who they are. So some people treat beautiful women, they just want to touch them. They just want to score them. They don't want to know them. They just want to touch them. Other people want them around because they feel like they can attract more people because the beautiful woman's around, and it's really fascinating how people treat others. It's all about who I am. So what if the stimulus is not a beautiful woman? What if it's a black man? Do I right away make assumptions about who this guy is and what he's capable of? Do I right away say, oh, yeah, this is the category where he belongs? After all, he's a black man or he's an Asian man. Do I have a place in my mind? Because how I treat that person is about my stereotypes. It's not about them. It's about me. You probably want a break.
We can do a break. Let's do the break. And we'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to TNC Radio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Stay right there.
This infoblog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. ISS score for truck drivers explained and how to find it. An inspection selection system score is called ISS score, was created by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, to help law enforcement officers determine if the truck should be inspected. The inspection selection system score is frequently used to determine if your truck will receive a bypass command or not. There is often confusion between the ISS score and the CSA score. While there's a correlation between the two, they're not the same thing. The CSA score identifies high-risk motor carriers. The score is based on the performance data of the driver. The ISS score uses a combination of different CSA categories known as Behavior Analysis and Safety Improvement Category. That's BASICS for short, to determine the carrier's overall inspection rating from 0 to 100. Similar to the CSA score, the lower, the better. What determines your ISS inspection value? Unsafe driving, hours of service, HOS, driver fitness, controlled substances and alcohol, vehicle maintenance and cargo, hazardous material. There are 3 different ISS ratings categories: inspect, optional, or pass. Inspect, 75 to 100. Optional, 50 to 74. Pass, 1 to 49. ISS scores can determine how often you'll get inspected. Although some roadside inspections are at random times, most will be as a result of a higher ISS score. How to find ISS score. The FMCSA has an online portal where carriers can log in to check their ISS scores. You'll log in using your DOT-issued PIN. From there, you'll see the company information section on the main screen. Next, click the blue button labeled Inspection Selection System Info. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
TNCradio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. Happy to have you with us here this evening. I almost said this morning. This evening, talking with Dr. Christopher Cortman. Dr. Cortman, we were comparing notes here a few minutes ago and wanted to kind of let people know that they can kind of track along with us as well. Very easy to get a copy of your book, the Social Black Belt, or forgive me, the title of
Your Mind and Owner's Manual for a Better Life.
Yeah,
That's where this one comes from.
All available on Amazon. I'm a Kindle guy. Yeah, every time a new Kindle comes out, I like to get it, and also have it here on my PC. Very easy to download. And these are excellent books. Yes, most are available via audiobook. I know a lot of the drivers out there, it's hard to find reading time, but they have the opportunity to listen to Audible books and available there as well. How else can people learn more about you and what you do?
Everybody is willing, anyone who's willing to may contact me at srqshrink.com, and they can always send emails or notes of some kind. They can always call and order books anytime from Amazon or from my office or whatever they like. So it is. It's always nice to hear from people from faraway lands. So I relish that, and I'm flattered when they read something of mine and say they want to work. So,
well, good. Yeah. I'm sure, and I'm sure you hear it from all over, all different types of people from all walks of life.
we had I was away on the cruise, and we had an answering service taking the calls. And this older man with a very thick accent kept asking the poor woman answering the phone, "Have you read his book?" and she would say, "Can I take a message for you, sir?" "What about the book? Did you read the book?" And she kept dodging the question. This poor lady, all she wanted to do was take a message for this guy, but he wanted to quiz her on the book. And this was the book he was talking about. So I was delighted in that story and listening to the conversation.
That's great. Love it. Well, hey, we've got a few minutes left here. How do you want to?
I want to talk about parents.
Okay.
Taking things personally when their children behave in certain ways. And it is the easiest thing to do because it's what society expects us to do. And I want to tell you just a couple of stories to reinforce this point. There was a couple that came in to work with me. They really wanted their son to come in and work with me, but he had a different agenda. He was doing some serious drugs, and what his life was about was trying to get money to score his next fix. You know, you and I have talked about that in weeks past, that if you've ever tried one of these incredible opioids, you can understand that it changes people and then they want to keep taking them. But the parents were, they had two kids and he was one of them. And the other one I remember was successfully matriculating at the University of Florida without any major issues. But they wanted to know, what did we do wrong? How did this happen? And I said to him, here's what you did wrong. You ready for this? And they were so intent on my answer. I said, the reason your son is doing drugs is because you guys always did drugs right in front of him. And they said, we never did any drugs. We don't even drink. And I said, okay, well, the reason he's doing drugs is because when he was young, you told him, I expect you to grow up and do as many drugs as possible, son. That is the right thing to do. And they said, of course we didn't say that. And I laughed and said, well, there you go. You didn't model this. You didn't teach this. In fact, you taught, like most parents, the opposite. Don't do drugs. You want to know what the real issue is here? You gave birth to a child with free will. That was your mistake. You should have ordered a robot and programmed him. We have all kinds of research on how siblings are more likely to look like they're each other than the general population. We knew that. We have research that says siblings are closer in intelligence to each other than the general population. We knew that too. But we also have the same research that says siblings are more different personality-wise than from each other than the general population. I am less likely to be like my brother than some random person on the street. Why is that? We go down different paths. We have free will. We make choices. We even have different experiences in the same family. Family systems theory says we all take different roles, even under the same roof. One's the black sheep and one's the hero and so forth. But parents can do the very best they can, and the kids can turn out any way that they want to turn out. I learned from my parents, Tom, something that really made me take a step back. This wasn't too many years ago, maybe 10, 12 years, I don't know. But I was into a conversation with my father, and however we got there, the bottom line was he was insulted when I didn't adopt his specific understanding of Christianity. Like I had my own faith, my own type of thoughts on faith and religion and God and so forth. And it was different than what he taught. And he took that very personally, like I was thumbing my nose at him. And it was like, really? You took that to mean that I was rejecting you and flipping you off? Like, screw you, Dad? No, actually, no, Dad. In fact, I hear you. I listen to you, but I have a mind of my own. And so some of the things I may agree, and some of the things I may disagree. And by the way, Dad, there's about 52 million different types of Christianity. And so, who's got it right? And the answer is none of us really know exactly what's true, but we all believe what makes sense to us. But that was an insult. That was an insult to my parents that I didn't blindly follow everything according to the way they espoused it. And so I would say, once again, don't personalize the behavior of other people. Where we're going to go next week, because I know we're running out of time, is to help people understand, well, if everybody's behavior is about them, what belongs to me? If somebody treats me poorly in a relationship, what part of this is mine? What part do I bring to the table? It's easy to say, oh, this is great. Everybody who's ever treated me poorly, every broken relationship I've ever had, somebody else did something rotten to me. What part belongs to me? And I have an obligation to share the other part of this as well. And there are many more things I want to say, and hopefully we can pick up here next time, because I don't want to leave it that I bear no responsibility. How everybody treats me is about them, so I get a free pass.
Right. Yeah. No matter who you're having a troubled relationship with, there is some percentage that's on you. Right?
I am 100% responsible for my 50% of the relationship.
Exactly.
How about that?
Exactly. And if you want to say, hey, the problems with this relationship is 90% her and 10% me, great. What are you going to do to work on your 10%? Because you can't fix her 90%, right? We covered that in weeks past. I can't do anything about her 90%. So what am I going to do about my 10%?
And if I'm willing to just change some small things in a relationship, I might be able to change the entire atmosphere just by making some small changes.
Exactly.
Well, we're running out of time, but I just told the couple this week, instead of focusing on what isn't working, how about if we try a date night once a week and go to the gym together, since they both want to do that 3 times a week? If we can just let's add those 2 things right now and see what happens to your relationship if we just add those things.
And?
Well, it's a brand new assignment.
Okay.
I'll have to report back.
All right. All right. Well, hey, it's been wonderful as always. Hour always goes by very quickly. Thank you, Dr. Chris, for another great hour of Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman.
Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to next week, because there's so much more to say about this, and I'm excited to dive in with you all.
Yeah,
So,
this is a good one. So, all right, I'm Tom Kelly. That's Dr. Christopher Cortman. We'll be back again next week. Stay tuned for more programming right here on TNC Radio.live. Take care.